We have to remember to record as well. Yes.
It's automatic.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Hi, everybody. Morning, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Jamal, I made you a presenter, so
Yes,
you should be
thank
able
you. I will
to share.
Yeah.
Rachel, which organization are you from?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I'm the BioDiv Nature Restoration Law Knowledge Hub co-chair. So I met Yelena at the IONET workshop the other week, and we're working on collaboration. So she kindly invited me to attend today to get an overview of what's going on.
Excellent. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
It sounds like a great meeting that you hosted in Copenhagen.
It was very productive, I think. Yes.
Okay, hi colleagues. Just a few minutes to the hour, so we'll wait for more people to join the meeting, presenters to join. Welcome, colleagues.
How you doing, Yelena?
Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, colleagues, for joining. I see many familiar names and faces. Okay, thanks. Thank you for joining, everyone. I think we'll just wait another minute for colleagues to come into the call, and we'll get started. Okay, I think we can just go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Today we have the 12th task force meeting on monitoring. And yeah, we're really happy to have you today. And we have quite a packed agenda. Let me just share my screen here. So I see many familiar faces and names, but I think also some people that are new to the task force. So I invite everyone to just introduce yourself in the chat. You know, your name, organization, anything else you'd like to share with members of the task force. And so Julian and I will be providing the welcome and updates. So I'll pass it directly to Julian Fox for a welcome to everyone.
Thanks, Yelena. Actually, Yelena and I were checking. As it says here, this is the 12th task force meeting set up to help monitor. Originally, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. Actually, we checked, and the first meeting of the task force was actually almost exactly 5 years ago, on the 31st of March 2020. And in that call, we had 55 people from 11 organizations. So interesting. We've grown a lot, but now we have many organizations and individuals that sort of listen to the recordings and follow the activities. In fact, we have 440 individuals across 145 organizations that follow us to some extent or another, and there's many people still coming into the room. So, I mean, it's evolved a lot over the 5 years. I mean, 5 years ago, the UN Decade was just kicking off. The GBF was a pipe dream, and and in that 5 years, I think the task force has responded to these emerging priorities in terms of monitoring restoration, particularly around Target 2. But always, I think the vision was the same. Yelena and I were looking at some of the slides from 5 years ago. Really, the transparent data on restoration can support the scaling of the movement, but is also really critical for monitoring progress of all the commitments we have on ecosystem restoration and nature restoration. So, and we right from the start, we said we'd work together as a partnership, really leveraging each other's complementarities and trying to remove any duplication of effort. And I think that's been really successful over the last 5 years. So we have a ton of updates, and they're really juicy updates. And so I'll just thank you all again for being with us, and great to see that we continue to grow and evolve and respond to emerging needs. So back to you, Yelena. Thanks.
Thanks, Julian. I love that juicy update. So yeah, we have a packed schedule for today. The objective of this meeting, of course, as always, is to share information with the task force, to get your feedback. We have 2 conventions providing updates on their respective COP15s, UNCCD and CBD. We have an update on the firm, learning about regional objectives, and we would like to hear more about how to engage with you. Nice screen. Sorry, I lost my presentation, but yeah, so we have quite a few presentations today. The first presentation will be from Jamal at CBD, and then followed by Sara Minali from the from UNCCD. Presentation mode. Okay, so in the task force, I think everyone is quite familiar with this slide. As Julian mentioned, now we have over 400 technical experts from 100 organizations in the task force on monitoring. And we have, and the structure of our task force has been, well, first, the objective is to collaboratively develop a monitoring framework for the UN Decade, and also support to the Rio Conventions. We have an aquatic ecosystems working group, which we'll hear more about today from Ashley, and we're working on a Target 2 partnership, which will encompass the work of the task force and further engage this group and other stakeholders in providing technical support for countries that will report on progress to their restoration commitments. And so, yeah, Julian mentioned that it's been 5 years of this task force. So, yeah, just a celebration to ourselves that, we've been, this community has been together for 5 years. And yeah, I think with that, we can just start with our technical presentations and over to Jamal. I'll stop sharing my screen, Jamal.
I have to unmute myself. So hello, everyone. I hope you see the screen now.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Good. Great. So first of all, congratulations on the 5 years of the monitoring task force and seeing that your group is kept stable. And I think there is a really exciting work is ahead of us as we have now the Target 2 under the Global Biodiversity Framework, but also as the framework on ecosystem restoration monitoring is ready and operational, and also as 2 conventions, CBD and UNCCD, are kicking into the new reporting cycle. I think that's really the phase which will really provide us a lot of data to work with and hopefully also increase our knowledge and understanding of the situation where we are right now in terms of the ecosystem degradation and ecosystem restoration. So, but here I have to provide you in a very brief updates from the CBD COP16. So the 2 parts of the COP, the one in Cali and in Rome. Of course, I will try to focus on issues that are relevant to the work of this task force. And I'm switching the slides. Yeah, but a very brief overview of a few, like a landmark decision, the breakthrough decision in the COP16, because the agenda was really busy and it was a really important COP for many reasons. So first of all, there were a number of resource mobilization decisions. Like, as you know, the Cali Fund was launched. So that's the new model of the financial mechanism of the convention that will leverage the funding from the private sector that commercially use the data from the genetic resources. And the 50% of that fund will go for indigenous people, local communities. So this is quite revolutionary. Also, the COP decided to establish the permanent arrangement for the financial mechanism for CBD, and that will be done in the phased manner. So for the next COP, COP17, we'll agree on criteria for institutional structure and selection criteria, and the COP18 will, first of all, review the reforms of existing agencies, and will decide on establishment either in new entity or using the one of the existing entities that fits the criteria. So also what was really important is that the new subsidiary body and program of work on Article 8J and other provision was adopted that will provide the indigenous peoples and local communities a very strong participation, a formal participation in the negotiation processes in CBD. A monitoring framework is now operational, and it was also decided that there will be 2 global reviews on collective progress at the next COP 17, and 2 years later, like 2 COPs later in the COP 19. So twice the stock take will happen during the timeline of the framework. I also wanted to just really mention an important decision on biodiversity and climate change, because that was the decision where, among all other like operational paragraphs, prioritize protection, restoration, and management of ecosystem important for full carbon cycle. And it also is now deciding on the potential joint work program of the Rio Convention. So, and I think that also really gives us a very good opportunity to see how we can leverage the work on monitoring and data across the Rio Conventions. So the two decisions, and they are quite important to the work of this task force. So the one, of course, the decision on cooperation, which recognized the role of FAO and the UNEP as the two co-lead of the UN decade, and invites the FAO and UNEP in collaboration with the Rio Conventions and other relevant partners to continue to implement the framework, including through the roadmap of the Target 2. So that's that gives us a really, well, first of all, it's a very direct invitation for the two co-leads of the UN decade, and basically also the CBD parties would like to see that implemented, and in the COP17 we will be happy to report on those activities under the UN decade in the CBD. Also, an important decision was taken, and it was in a continuity from the COP15 decision on capacity building and scientific and technical support. The selection of 18 regional and sub-regional support centers. So as you know, they were the decision was taken at the COP15 to establish them, and for the 2 years, CBD organized a very thorough selection and transparent selection process. So the 18 centers were selected, and they are representative, so they're covering all geographical regions. And the list of those centers we can provide to you if you would like to know what are the centers and where they are. And the role of those centers is really to help the countries, because each center works with its own constituency countries, to help the countries to build capacity to implement the framework. It should be done in the demand-driven manner based on the priorities of the countries. And the idea is also that the centers will start collaborating with each other, so that to ensure the knowledge and information and experience transfer across the regions. And the role of the center, as you will see from now on, will be consistently reflected and mentioned in many decisions. So, but I would like to really open up two decisions which are also quite that relevant for the monitoring task force, the decision on monitoring framework and the reporting and review mechanism. So the two decisions have been adopted in the second part of the COP in Rome. So first of all, the monitoring framework decision is now endorsing the technical updates for the headline indicators, the binary indicators, and the optional disaggregation for the headline indicators. So they're all available in the annex to the decision, and everyone can go and check the composition and the structure of the monitoring framework. It's important to mention that the metadata for all headline indicators, of course, once we will go through the 7th reporting cycle, which is already started, this metadata will be reviewed by COP17, so that the data will be available for the countries for the 8th reporting cycle. So this will be kind of an iterative process of improving the metadata for the countries. So what is quite interesting, you will see here now, these two bullet points on the screen, is that the parties are invited, encouraged to take a consistent approach in national ecosystem monitoring. And of course, they should be using the national ecosystem classification when it comes to monitoring ecosystem at the national level, and using it consistently across goals and the targets of their NBSAPs. But when we come to the global level for the comparability purposes, we also inviting, so the COP invites countries to cross-reference their national ecosystem data with the global ecosystem typology, the level 2 and the level 3. Of course, this is based on the national capacities and circumstances. But I think that two elements of this decision really gives an important, first of all, it recognizes that in the CBD, we should start planning really a very foundational layer of the ecosystem, which is still missing. And those two elements of the decision gives us a very good mandate, and because it also invites the other parties, other organizations to help to facilitate this process. And for example, it also invites the secretariats of the MEAs to share information on their relevant monitoring initiatives with the CBD secretariat. And as I already mentioned, there is a very clear request for regional and sub-regional centers to help the countries to build the monitoring and reporting capacity. So the second monitoring decision, which is on the reporting and review mechanism, established the global review of collective progress. So these two stock takes, that's how it is officially called, the global review of collective progress. So as already mentioned, it will take place twice. And this global review will culminate in the decision or series of decisions that will be addressing challenges in the implementation. Of course, it will talk about the data, about the knowledge, and of course, seeing how are we on track to achieve the targets. So this global review will be done for each target. So it's really target by target assessments for all 23 targets for 2030 mission and also progress towards the goals. So you know that the goals are more long-term nature than until 2050. So that's a huge undertaking for the parties. And it would be, I think, a lot of capacity and expertise from the CBD Secretariat will be really directed towards supporting the countries in the monitoring and reporting. And to govern the work, how the global review should be organized, what should be the scope, the sources of information, the ad hoc scientific and technical advisory group is being established right now, and this ATEC will advise on the preparation of the global report on collective progress. So, and finally, my last slide. So where we go from now? So from Cali to Yerevan, the Target 2 roadmap. So how it continues to deliver. So what are the main activities? So just to mention for you where we're now in the CBD, so there are 49 NBSUPs submitted as of yesterday. That of course maybe just a 1/3 of NBSUPs, so it clearly we understand that the parties are still working on finalizing their national plans. And the 7th reporting cycle is launched, and the deadline is still the same. It's a February next year, so parties will have more or less 1 year. And by the way, I forgot to mention is that the non-state actors will also report on the implementation of the GBF. So the Target 2 roadmap, as I'm sure if you're a regular member of the task force, you know that during the last 2 years, the Target 2 group and the Target 2 roadmap really focused on developing tools, organizing the global workshops, just to make sure that we have all resources in hand, and those resources are prepared jointly with the parties in a consultation with a broad stakeholder group. And we have those resources to start implementing the capacity building at the country or at the regional level. So now we're entering the operational phase. We will support the countries with the Target 2 reporting through the collaboration with the sub-regional centers. And those sub-regional centers we're selecting through the open call because it should be based on the interest of the regions and priorities of the regions. So for those centers that are willing to join this Target 2 process, they will have an opportunity, a financial and technical opportunity to go through, to organize the training, but also to be trained how to deliver and maintain the function of the help desk for their constituency group. So this is what we're planning to do, and this year, and at least until the deadline of the reporting, which is February next year, is to organize a few sub-regional trainings and also the training of trainers, so that at least we could ensure that the majority of those 18 sub-regional centers are trained and are enabled to provide the best advice for the parties in terms of the reporting for Target 2 and the use of the firm. And we hope that by doing this, we will build better data and knowledge on ecosystem restoration, or specifically on the Target 2, and this will be well reflected in the global report on collective progress. This we can do only if we collaborate with all of you, with all the relevant partners and other initiatives, and we hope to see you also in the Restoration Day at COP17. So with this, I'm finished. So
Thank
happy
you
to
so much,
answer
Jamal.
any questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Jamal. It's really great to hear from the CBD Secretariat. These updates are really fresh because COP16 was concluded just 3 weeks ago in Rome, and really congratulations. That it's huge that the GBF was adopted, that we have a monitoring framework, and now we just have 5 years left in this decade to achieve quite ambitious targets. So we're really counting on everyone's support, as you mentioned. I think I suggest we move to the next presentation, Sara Minali from UNCCD, and then perhaps we can take a couple of questions. We'll also have time at the end for a discussion, hopefully. Let's see how we do on time. Sara, over to you.
Thank you, Yelena. I'm trying to put my presentation.
We saw you. Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know. Yep, we see it now.
You can see it now. Great.
Perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invite, first of all, and for giving me the opportunity to present briefly some of the key outcomes related to restoration monitoring from our own COP16, which was held in December 2024 in Riyadh. First of all, I think I'd like to mention that the work that we have been doing together under this task force has been recognized by the COP. The COP has welcomed the inclusion of SDG indicator 15.3.1 as a component indicator under Target 2 of the GBF. And it has welcomed also the ongoing work under the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. On that basis, the UNCCD Secretariat has then been requested to continue working with the CBD, the FAO, and other partners here to facilitate especially data exchange, tool interoperability, and capacity building for the monitoring and reporting of both land and ecosystem degradation and restoration. In the same decision, I think also this is a relevant point for CBD colleagues as well. The Secretariat has been requested to, in collaboration with the Earth observation community and data provider, make available high-resolution data sets for reporting. There is countries out there are hungry for higher resolution and better data, especially for small island developing states, but more broadly developing countries. And we have been working at the Secretariat quite closely with data providers on this topic. What I wanted to mention is that it's proving pretty challenging to make available good and high resolution data to countries. This is just an example for some of the land cover data. There are new global 30-meter resolution data sets which are publicly available. But the reality then when looking into this data set is that certain small island developing states are not covered at all, others are partially covered, like Fiji in the example here on the screen, or there are also issues of accuracy or incorrect classification, problems that are obvious to encounter when using a global product then to report at the small scale required from small island developing countries. So we are working closely with this data provider to try and fill some gaps. And we imagine also doing some work to curate this data in a way together with the country. So seeds will be a focus for this reporting cycle. Reporting cycle, which is due to start very soon. This is our 2026 reporting cycle, but it will be launched already at the end of July of this year, so in just a few months, with the idea that the tentative deadline for reporting, at least for estimate of SDG 15.3.1, which is proportion of degraded land, will be due in November 2026, so a little more time for UNCCD country parties to report. This is a request we've got from the countries to give them sufficient time to compile the information. And then the idea would be to submit a new estimate of SDG indicator 15.3.1 to New York in March 2027. So as relevant information here, countries will have new information on the status of land degradation, possibly relevant also for GBF monitoring purposes, only in February 2027. In terms of capacity building for reporting, we are planning to organize a series of face-to-face capacity development workshops, both at regional and sub-regional level in the second half of this year. And in addition to that, we will provide online technical backstopping throughout the reporting process, ideally here in collaboration with some regional institutions. We don't have a well-defined network like the CBD now has, but we would like to start at least piloting this approach with some of the regional institutions that are already working on SDG 15.3.1, and then maybe complement that with some international experts, consultants who can support remaining countries. So as for the CBD, we will have training of trainers events before we kickstart the reporting process. The COP also took several decisions that deals with synergies in reporting with the Rio Convention. And again, here the focus is on the promotion of data sharing, tool interoperability, but also, again, option to minimize the reporting burden, is the current data collection and verification tasks of parties. So there are some similarities between our reporting system, and countries are asking us to facilitate reporting, joint reporting, or synergies in reporting through this means. Moving away a bit from requests made to Secretariat and other partners, this is more broadly a call for action to all the countries. This call for action is based on the results of our latest reporting process, which was held in 2022. And on the basis of those numbers that we were able to collect, then the COP has urged parties to halt the conversion of natural areas, conserve and sustainably manage both forest, but also natural grassland. And then here, in line with what we call the LDN, land degradation neutrality response hierarchy, first avoid new degradation, and then reduce and reverse land degradation to meet this neutrality target by 2030. Strictly related to this is the work on LDN targets. The COP has requested the global mechanism to continue supporting countries in setting or refining their voluntary LDN targets, going also beyond the 18 countries which are now involved in the second phase of this target setting program. I will say a few more words in the next slide on this. But related to this request is also the request to streamline this process of target setting with the other convention. And so target 2 here certainly in the focus, and integrating the targets into subnational integrated land use planning framework, linking therefore to the target 1 of the CBD. Just a few words on the target setting program. We have had 131 countries engaged to date, and globally this work has resulted in a voluntary commitment to restore almost 6 million hectares of degraded land based on some updated estimates that were prepared for COP in 2024. So here it's important, of course, that we synergize and that we make the link between UNCCD targets and CBD targets in a way. And as I was saying before, we're currently working with the 18 countries as a pilot phase, let's say, with the idea that we will expand to more countries in partnership with the technical partner and other organizations. The focus of this phase is on the revision of the target with a focus on several elements. As based on a COP decision, targets are supposed to be more specific, time-bound, policy coherent. So countries are going to run an assessment of the policy coherence of their targets, quantitative, spatially explicit, gender responsive, and integrated into land use planning frameworks. And on this, we have a project that is going to start in May that will look a bit into the land use planning aspect of LDN. And as a final slide, I think it's important to mention that our countries are already looking into the future in a way, and they have decided to establish an intergovernmental working group, IWG, that will start looking into a post-2030 UNCCD strategic framework by identifying key elements such as goals and targets and indicators. So things are going to change under the UNCCD pretty soon in terms of our strategic framework. And there will be options for engagement in this group, as it will be composed of both regional representatives, but also technical experts. So we will have a call coming out pretty soon, inviting interested individuals to express their interest and be part of this group. I will close it here. I'm open to question if there is any, as I assume that participants might be less familiar with the UNCCD COP or with UNCCD process than the CBD one. So thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Sara. Really great to hear from UNCCD Secretariat and updates from your COP. There are so many opportunities for collaboration, and it's great that you've really institutionalized that collaboration as well. I think it would be nice if we have some questions. Perhaps if anyone would like to, just raise your hand and ask a question verbally. We can prioritize questions that way. Anyone want to speak up? Yep, Jamal.
Yelena, there are already a few questions in the chat, so maybe we can start by answering them, and then colleagues can definitely come up with more questions. Well, first of all, the question on the JET and the equivalent methodology. So as far as I remember, the parties were very specific not to be limited in terms of what methodology to use, or even using the JET. So they still would like to prioritize the national classification, and I think this was done just with an idea, really not to limit them just by using the global ecosystem typology, because the different countries have a different national classification system. So, but it's still, having said that, we still have of course, the challenge on how to really make it comparable at the global level. So that's something maybe for many of our agencies to look at, this challenge. So
I think, and that was to Javier's question about the global ecosystem typologies levels 2 and 3, right?
Yes, correct. Sorry, I'm not really mentioning who was asking the question. And then there was a question on the monitoring. Sorry, I'm scrolling. The reporting cycle.
Yeah, from Anushree.
I lost the question.
Yeah, so I think
what are the plans for the next reporting at COP17? So the reporting, there will be 2 reporting cycles that are fall into the framework timeline. So the 7th and the 8th national reporting cycle. The 7th reporting cycle started already in the CBD. It will be, the deadline, the due will be in February next year. So, and we hope that the parties will be able, and non-state actors will be able to report in that time, and that then it will give us a time before COP to analyze the submission and to synthesize that in the global review process. So this information will be brought to COP17. So the COP17 will review the first global stock take. So that's the planning. That's the plan for the COP17. So, and hopefully with all that information in hand and data, the COP17 can already decide on within this iterative process of the reporting of where more attention should be given, where more capacity, what are the gaps, and how we're going to fill those gaps. That's for the 7th national reporting process. And the question from Stuart on the UNEP. Yes, so this is the role of the UNEP, how UNEP could also support the regional, it's rather the sub-regional trainings, which are going to take place. So right now, the selection of the centers or the sub-regions and the centers are still ongoing. It's not finalized. It's also done in a collaboration with the capacity building team, which is the global coordination entity of those centers. So when it is done, of course, the idea is that we, as the CBD Secretariat, is definitely a very small global entity that we cannot really work so efficiently at the sub-regional level. So the idea is that we delegate this role of organizing the trainings to the sub-regional entities, and of course, providing the needed methodological support. So once we know those centers and where and the time of the workshop, I'm sure that UNEP can help either through your representative or your respective sub-regional offices. So that will be, of course, needed to be discussed, and how we can arrange that. So you can also help and complement the delivery of these workshops. But as already mentioned, the organization, the agenda, it will be all done with the leadership of the centers. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that was it. Thank you. I see we're running quite over time right now, but Julian, did you want to jump in? I see your hand is up.
Actually, I just put it in the chat. But yeah, let's connect Sarah, because yeah, we're always on the lookout for high-resolution imagery as well, and we work a lot with high-resolution imagery, so we may be able to join forces on that. And yeah, so it's in the chat. Back to you, Elena.
Yeah, thank you. And Sarah, I see you've responded also to Katya's question in the chat as well, so thank you. And just let everyone know, well, as maybe you've seen in the chat, we'll be sharing presentations and the recording, and please feel free to reach out also to the colleagues that are presenting directly if you have questions. For our next presentation, I'll pass it to my colleague Jewel Chang from FAO to give us an update on the firm. So over to you, Jewel. You're muted, Jewel. We don't hear you.
Thank you, Elena. I'm asking my colleague, Gregory, to share the screen for me. It's been a while since the last meeting. I'm really glad to see new faces and familiar faces. I'm a consultant supporting the task force on monitoring and the GBF Target 2 monitoring and reporting. In my presentation, I will show you the new developments of FIRM, the framework for ecosystem restoration monitoring. I believe many of you already know FIRM fairly well, so this presentation will not be a step-by-step tutorial, but instead will focus on the new functionalities and improvements. Next slide, please. So as you already know, the firm consists of a registry for restoration initiatives and good practices, a geospatial tool for visualizing restoration data, a search engine for consulting good practices and initiatives, and an upcoming dashboard that will provide compiled data on restoration. We launched the firm in the beginning of the UN decade, and now it has more than 2,000 initiatives and good practices covering 135 countries. It is a collaborative work between the FAO-led task forces and many other partners. And again, congratulations for the 5 years. And let's continue the collaboration to deliver more results. Next slide, please. Since our users have grown a lot, we translated the firm into Spanish and French and Portuguese recently to better serve the needs of users and countries. Now the registry is available in these 3 languages in addition to English for both registering initiatives and documenting good practices. We also translated the IUCN global ecosystem typology into these languages, and we are preparing the Target 2 resource guide summary version in multiple languages. We also offer trainings in these languages. You can choose the language in the top in the landing page on the top right corner. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Next slide, please. One of the main objectives of the firm is to monitor area under restoration, the headline indicator for Target 2. Therefore, to align to the metadata, we added the optional disaggregation by ecosystem, by protected area and other effective area-based conservation measures, by indigenous and traditional territory, and by restoration activity. Here on this slide, you can see an example, Indonesia. And the colors, they represent different biomes using the global ecosystem typology level 2. This is also recommended by CBD. Next slide. This slide shows another major development in firm, the visualization page of initiatives and good practices. So once an initiative is published, it will have a shareable URL. The visualization page contains a map on the right column. On the left, you can it allows uploading photos, tracking progress of the indicator compared to targets, and general information, project level indicators, and good practices linked to the site or the project. And these are all available in the search engine. So the users can move over the map to select the site to see the details. Next slide, please. Users can run advanced geospatial analysis and assessment both in the characteristic tab in the registry after restoration areas are delineated, and in the firm geospatial so here you have the link firm.earthmap.org. There we provide curated layers relevant to restoration planning and assessment and monitoring the indicators. This is an example of a site with the indicative ecosystems of the global ecosystem typology level 3. Next slide, please. And the geospatial analysis can be visualized also in the visualization page, continuing with the previous slide. In Kenya, here the users can calculate on the fly land cover, for example, land cover composition and change, species richness index, land productivity, and forest ground biomass. and by clicking the arrows, and for each site that is on the map. Next slide, please. Then to help users collect with a field data collection, we developed a new tool, Ground. Now it is linked to Firm. So Ground is a portable tool, portable application with a default survey based on the Firm registry. If users, you already have created your initiative in the Firm registry, you can export it to Ground and then use it to collect field data, to delineate polygons and select ecosystems, specify activities, take photos, and more with your mobile device. And then the data can be imported back from Ground to Firm registry. We will have upcoming trainings on the tool. Please follow us to learn how to use it. Next slide, please. A year ago, at the International Day of Forests, 21st of March, we're very close to the date again, we launched the Firm search engine of initiatives and integrated data from nature commitments managed by UNEP-WCMC. Now we have integrated restoration projects from more partners using an interoperability framework. And among these partners, we have the Global Environment Facility, the Brazilian Observatory, and SER, Society of Ecological Restoration project database. And more will be integrated in the coming month. And don't forget the best practices. So it's the same search engine, and we plan to improve it to provide, for example, a map view and make it more user-friendly. Next slide, please. This is my last slide. So as our team grows, we're able to create more resources and provide more support. Last year, we launched the Target 2 resource guide. We're working on the summary versions, and we plan to develop guidance on specific ecosystems. Today, we're going to see the guidance on freshwater. My colleague Ashley will present it soon. We also have an e-learning developed based on the resource guide. We have a series of tutorial videos to show how to use the Firm registry. And we have created a mailing list, and we now have newsletters. My colleague Temi I think she has put the link of the mailing list in the chat. We offer on-demand trainings to the Firm and to the tools we mentioned, the Ground, and we have a C-plan. As Jamal said, we are collaborating with CBD, sub-regional technical and scientific cooperation support centers to provide regional support. And we are working on technical guidance, for example, the quality control and assurance document. We will share this presentation with everyone, so you can open the slides and go to the links. Next slide. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Jewel. Really insightful presentation. And yeah, we're excited to present these updates. I see we're quite short on time. I suspect that we'll be going over because we have still 2 presentations to go. So we appreciate if colleagues can stay an additional, I think we can wrap up in an additional 10 minutes. I also understand if colleagues need to leave before, and we'll be recording the this and sharing the recording shortly. So, you can also catch up. You can catch up the last bit afterwards. That being said, thank you so much, Jewel. And I think we can just directly pass to our next presenter, Ashley Steele from FAO, which will be presenting the almost ready guidance on freshwater ecosystems. Over to you, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yelena, and thank you, Zhu, for getting this started. I'm going to talk also about restoration reporting, but from a totally different perspective, but integrated. But I want to thank Temi and Gregory for all their support on this work already. I'm going to talk about Target 2, which, as you know, is to bring 30% of degraded ecosystems under effective restoration by 2030. And I'm bolding this word inland waters. That's what I want to refer to in specific. And this guidance on how one can report on area under restoration for inland freshwater ecosystems. And before I go, I just want to remind the goals of Target 2. There's 4: enhanced biodiversity, ecosystem function and services, ecological integrity, and connectivity. Just remember them so I can refer to enhancing things under the goals quickly later in the presentation. So freshwater inland waters are fantastic. They provide all kinds of very important things: drinking water for everyone, food production directly, fish indirectly, agriculture, water quantity regulation, water quality regulation through nutrient and sediment transport, climate regulation even, recreational opportunities, and of course, cultural values. And while I don't really like putting an economic value on something like water, water is life, people have done it, and it does help encourage people to pay attention to freshwater inland water ecosystems. So a review in 2023 looked at just the ecosystem services from lakes and found a global value of $3.1 trillion per year. And that's always thinking about the economic value of things are lost. There was another study by in 2014 that looked at what can be gained. So if we were to meet SDG target 15.1, then by 2020, to ensure the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of terrestrial and inland water ecosystems, we could increase their value by 18%. So there's a lot to be gained. And on the right, we can really see that there is already a lot lost. So these freshwater inland water ecosystems are quite degraded. This is a map of SDG indicator 6.3.2, and this assesses the proportion of a country's water bodies, that's the rivers, the lakes, and the aquifers, that have good ambient water quality, thinking about data on conductivity, acidification, nitrogen, phosphorus, and oxygen. And what these data describe is a bit concerning. So they indicate that only 50% of countries can report, well, 50% of countries do report degraded ecosystems, and that quite a few countries don't have the data required to report. So there's probably quite a bit more degradation than we can see. So these freshwater inland water ecosystems are super important, and they're degrading. So what would happen with restoration? What does it look like? So when I hear people talk about restoration, sometimes they're picturing this, a little planting a tree. But in freshwater inland water ecosystems, it doesn't always look like that. So we still have the restorative continuum. I don't hard word. Restorative continuum. This is from the resource guide produced by FAO and our partners. So with freshwater, we can do things all the way from simply reducing societal impacts, which is not simple, I'm sorry, but gently reducing societal impacts, all the way to fully recovering native ecosystems. And I want you to look at these pictures on the right. The first one is what I think of when I think of freshwater restoration. So this isn't gently planting a tree. This is a huge undertaking. This is a very expensive and kind of engineeringly intensive work. And this is done all over. And something I want you to think about is that this is very expensive, and it's clearly a very limited space. They're just restoring a few square meters here, it looks like. But why would you spend so much money to restore these few square meters? It's because everything inside a watershed is completely connected by the flow of water. So what happens in this little tiny space is affecting everything upstream through fish passage or other species passage, and everything downstream through the flow of wood and water and sediment, and also biodiversity, fish flow. And I included the other picture on the right, just to remind you that we do gentle things with freshwater inland water restoration too. And before I go on, I keep saying freshwater inland water as one word, and that's because there's a huge body of expertise in freshwater ecology. And there's also, when people hear inland waters, it relates to these conventions and often fisheries. And I want to use them both to remind me, everyone, that there's a tremendous body of information when we bring it all together, this expertise, because it's really one thing. We just, as disciplines, have developed different words. And when we use only one word, we think of only the expertise in one discipline. So we are releasing, hopefully in April soon, guidelines for reporting on freshwater inland water restoration under Target 2, what is the area restored? And this is a collaboration across 14 organizations. We've had tremendous support from all kinds of experts in bringing this together. So I thank Temi and Gregory, but I want to thank all of the experts and organizations who contributed their expertise to these guidelines. And they highlight this interconnectedness of all elements within a watershed and how inland water, freshwater ecosystems are unique. It outlines principles for reporting based on this interconnectedness and on the 4 goals that I mentioned earlier. The guidelines aim to incentivize, we want this reporting to incentivize the right things, to incentivize the most effective kinds of restoration and simultaneously to create globally consistent data. And we initiate the idea of monitoring because eventually where we report as restore, as under restoration, defines some kinds of monitoring. And also monitoring across a watershed is what we do in order to prioritize restoration, which is how we decide what to do, and then where we report, and then we monitor it and see how it's going. It's a big loop. It's all one thing. So the key messages of this report I have almost already delivered to you. Freshwater restoration encompasses a wide range of activities, and you need to understand the flow of water across watersheds to really do them. Interconnectedness across watersheds is very important. So the area under restoration is most often much larger than the area of on-the-ground activities. And these processes, restoration reporting, watershed assessments, inland fisheries risk assessments, freshwater inland waters restoration monitoring, they are all intimately linked. They use the same data and the same fundamental understanding. So we provide guidance in this report. And it's not prescriptive, but it provides principles that allow this globally consistent data that incentivizes the right thing. So an example for flowing waters, they're all flowing, but the ones that are flowing quickly, like streams and rivers, is that the area under restoration, defined that one could report, would be not just the area of on-the-ground activities, but the aggregate of that area plus all the area upstream and downstream where the 4 goals of Target 2 are expected to be enhanced. So this would probably be upstream areas to benefit from biodiversity and downstream and lateral areas expected to see enhanced biodiversity or ecosystem processes like the flow of wood, water, and sediment or improved water quality that are indicative of these goals. And we provide some examples for 7 example restoration, suites of restoration activities, what they might include, what one might expect to see, and how one could choose to report them under these guidelines. And yes, it's based on the global ecosystem typology, and all of this is currently being operationalized inside FIRM. So what's next for freshwater inland waters ecosystems under this body of work? We hope to work with countries and basins to develop case studies on reporting. So it's not just those cartoons that I presented, and that will include, of course, monitoring. Support capacity development, everyone's talking about it. We have an e-learning on these freshwater processes, the links between forest, fish, and freshwater. And then moving forward, we're already starting the work on a guidance document on monitoring across watersheds that would include all the steps from restoration prioritization all the way to monitoring those actions. And that, again, reinforces the idea that integrated assessments for freshwater inland water ecosystems are the same as those assessments for inland fisheries. So I put my contact information at the bottom, and I like to answer questions about it. So please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Freshwater ecosystems were one of the gaps that were identified when this task force was established. And so I think this shows great progress to further disseminating information that I think was, already existed, but really in the context of reporting to Target 2. So yeah, congratulations. And yeah, we hope to see that publication soon in April. So since we're short on time, I'll just pass it over next to Ilyas from FAO Regional Office, the Regional Office for Asia Pacific, to present the new restoration initiative there. Ilyas, over to you.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but I see you're putting it in presentation mode now. We don't see it in, okay, yes, now it's in presentation mode. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So I'm joining now from I'm from Bangkok. I work in the regional office, and last December we means the FAO and 37 partners. Many of the partners are in this call as well. Launched Result Asia Pacific, meaning restoring and sustaining landscapes together in Asia and Pacific region. With a target of 100 million hectare of forest and other landscapes. And this comes from a 2017 Regional Strategy and Action Plan for Forest and Landscape Restoration that the member countries in the region agreed way back in 2017. Then we had the UN Decade, and we tried to put that as a new framework to restore these 100 million, which is actually the targets committed by the countries in this region under the 3 Rio Conventions and other national targets. So if we look at Result Asia Pacific, in a nutshell, we have a core team with FAO, UNEP-WCMC, UNDP, and ITO. And for now, FAO is just coordinating, but we have a core team, is what I just mentioned. And then we have the 20 countries as our target. And we also are in the process of identifying champion countries. And we are also in the process of setting up FLR focal groups cluster in every country. And we have these 37 partners as the engine behind it, pushing this initiative, but putting countries first. And we also have a category of Friends of Result Asia Pacific, where we have a few organizations, but not yet there, but considering to join RAIN. And we have already a few more, like UNIDO, UN Habitat, etc., already agreed to join RAIN. So this is growing so fast. So this is really a good regional approach, a big regional initiative, not only to report back to the Asia Pacific Forestry Commission from where the regional strategy and action plan came into, and also to the context of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. So we are developing the monitoring framework for the Result Asia Pacific itself. And we are also trying to really link that with the kind of mobilizing investments and the huge challenge we have in order to restore 100 million hectares. It's not a joke. We need billions. And that is where we are really trying to develop bankable proposals and develop some kind of project bank linking with this monitoring framework. So as we speak, we are in the process of thinking about what should be the monitoring framework for this whole initiative itself. So we have, as I mentioned, 20 countries with the restoration commitments. Most of these major countries in the region. In Pacific, we have got only 2 countries, Samoa and Vanuatu. The rest 18 are in Asia. And this framework has got 6 components, and it has got 27 outputs. It's starting from national FLR action plans and then regional dialogues, and have promoting different kinds of innovations, mobilizing finance, especially from the private sector as a separate component, and putting communities in the driver's seat. So these are the 6 components under which we have 27 outputs. And as I said, these are the 38 RAIN members. We have the Result Asia implementing network partners, and you can see a variety of partners here. We have got small, medium, big, all type of partners here. But as I said, the list is growing as we speak. And now we are in the process of developing the monitoring framework, which is of interest also to the group here. And we already started scheduling meetings with the partners. As you see here, for every output, we have the lead, co-lead. We are trying to identify that now. And there are a set of contributors. And we are trying to find some key monitoring indicators, which actually we can monitor to see where we go with this whole initiative. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Elias, for the brief and very insightful presentation on this new initiative. Perhaps if there are any questions for the last 3 presentations, we can take a couple minutes for questions in case there are any. I see in the chat there have been a few questions in terms of marine and coastal ecosystems. And we, indeed, that is an upcoming work area for us. Marcel and Kim are the contacts for that. And we would like to do something really similar to what Ashley has spearheaded with the guidance for freshwater ecosystems. So please get in touch with them, and it would be great to form a working group to have similar guidance for marine and coastal ecosystems. And let me just go through the chat. Okay, and I see a few people have left. So if we have no hands, oh, sorry, I see one mic unmuted. Rachel, did you?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can wrap up the meeting then. And it's been a while, I have to say, since we had a task force on monitoring meeting. So we're really happy to gather here together. And we would really like to breathe new life into the task force on monitoring. So, and to do that, we want to make sure that the task force is meeting your needs and expectations, covering the thematic areas and gaps that are of interest. And so we have this survey. We don't have time to do this live, but we ask you, just to scan this QR code. We have a few simple questions. And if you could just take a minute after we close this call to do that survey. We'll have it open for a couple of days, also letting members that weren't able to make it to this meeting in person to respond, and then we'll provide a summary of the results. So I'll just and maybe Temi can provide the link in the chat. I think it's coming. Yeah, we have the QR code so that you can scan now with your phone to provide your feedback. Okay, and we have the link in the chat now as well. Okay, so perhaps, Julian, do you want to leave us with any closing words?
No, just I learned a lot as usual, and thanks everybody for the great presentations. I mean, I think we were a bit overambitious with the agenda, but wow, there's a lot of information exchanged. So thanks everybody, and have a great day. And thanks Elena for being a great moderator. Have a nice evening.
Thank
day,
you, everyone.
Morning, everything. Bye.
Thank you for the great presentations and feedback. Looking forward to see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.